My name is Callum, and if you had asked me a year ago what certainty looked like, I would have pointed to her without hesitation. Leah, soft voice, bright eyes. The kind of presence that made even the coldest room feel warmer just because she stepped inside. We'd spent 6 years together, 3 of them as husband and wife. Our life wasn't picture perfect, but it was steady, predictable in the best way, a quiet rhythm I thought would last forever. Our anniversary that year landed on a Friday, and somehow, that felt meaningful, like the universe had taken the day seriously on our behalf. I reserved a rooftop restaurant, nothing too flashy, but elegant enough to remind us that we were still choosing each other, still showing up. When she arrived, she was still in the pale lilac blouse I loved on her, the one that made her look like she carried her own sunlight. She hugged me, kissed my cheek, and for a breath of time, I believed the evening was going to knit us back together. But moments have a way of mutating without warning. We hadn't even ordered drinks when her phone buzzed. She sighed, glanced at the screen, and murmured, "It's work." By then, I was used to her marketing firm swallowing up her time, so I didn't think much of it. She replied with a quick message, set her phone down, and then it buzzed again and again. "Everything all right?" I asked. "It's just Ronan," she said. Her boss, the man whose name I'd heard endlessly, always painted as brilliant and demanding. But tonight, the way she said his name sounded charged, like he wasn't simply her boss anymore. He was a looming weight. She couldn't sit down. Before I could ask more, someone tapped her shoulder. We turned, and standing there was the man himself, Ronan Ward, tall, immaculate suit, expression carved into something sharp, and eyes that slid right past me as if I was a forgotten wall decoration. "Leah," he said with a smirk that made heat crawl up my neck. "You didn't answer my message." She stiffened. "I'm out. It's my anniversary." He nodded like he was processing mildly inconvenient information. Then he finally looked at me. "You must be the husband," he said, extending a hand like he was doing me a favor. I shook it only because I was raised to be polite. "Callum Ronan." He replied as if I didn't already know. Then he turned back to her. And this time he didn't bother with courtesy, you know. He said casually, "I always tell the office she's mine at work." He smiled, but nothing about it sounded like a joke. Something bitter twisted in my gut. I waited for Leah to correct him, laugh it off, push back even slightly, but she didn't. She just froze, eyes flicking between us, and for the first time ever, I saw something like fear on her face. "What's that supposed to mean?" asked, careful to keep my voice steady. Ronan leaned onto our table like he belonged there. "It means she practically runs the department. She's indispensable. I rely on her more than anyone." His gaze drifted over her again, and I expect her to be available at all times. My stomach dropped. Leah still wouldn't look at me. Her cheeks were flushed, her fingers shaking slightly. "That's enough, Ronan," she whispered. He tilted his head, amused. "You didn't tell him?" Her glare was sharp, panicked. He ignored it. "Oh, come on," he said lightly. "He's going to find out eventually. You can't hide how essential you've become." That was when something inside me cracked. "Tell me what I asked again." This time with no softness left. Finally, Leah lifted her eyes to mine. Her lips parted, but nothing came out. And in that silence, I heard everything she wasn't brave enough to say. Silence isn't empty. It's full of truth someone doesn't want to voice. My chest went hollow. The restaurant noise blurred until all I could hear was the pounding of my own heartbeat. Then she whispered, "Callum, there's something I need to explain about me and Ronan." She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't have to. Her expression carried enough weight to tilt the ground beneath my feet. In that instant, I understood that whatever she was about to confess had already changed everything. Call me naive, but I used to think love was simple, to people choosing each other every day. Back then, if someone had asked me what certainty looked like, I would have said, Leah, sweet, steady, thoughtful Leah, my wife of 3 years, the woman who could calm my storms with just a smile. So, when our anniversary dinner rolled around and she walked in with her boss trailing behind her like a shadow she couldn't shake, The ground beneath me shifted. Leia sat down across from me, shoulders tight, eyes full of something that looked a lot like fear. Ronan stood there with his arms crossed, scanning the room like he owned it and her. When I asked what was going on, Leia's voice came out soft, cracking round the edges. It's not what it looks like, a phrase that almost always means the opposite. She kept her gaze pinned to the table, avoiding my eyes, avoiding the truth sitting between us. Things at work, responsibilities, late nights, travel stress, excuses that sounded worn out even as she spoke them. I asked her how all of that required her. Boasted casually claimed she was his. That word had dropped from Ronan's mouth earlier like it was nothing, like she wasn't my wife. She winced, whispering that he had exaggerated. Before she could say more, Ronan stepped closer as if he had a right to insert himself into our marriage. Leia, he said, using a nickname I had never heard in my life, your team needs you tonight. Tonight. I repeated our anniversary tonight. Ronan didn't even bother hiding his annoyance. She's essential. He said it like she was a tool, not a person. And for a heartbeat, it worked. Leia almost folded under his tone. But then something in her changed. Her spine straightened, her chin lifted. When she looked at him again, her expression wasn't fear. It was resolve. I told you I would help where I could, she said calmly. Not that I belong to you. For the first time, Ronan looked thrown off just slightly. You rely on me. She continued. But you don't own me. Not at work. Not anywhere. That was the crack in the foundation he didn't expect. We'll talk Monday, he insisted. No, she said. We won't. I'm done. He blinked, completely unprepared for her defiance. You're emotional. You'll regret this. Her answer was steady. The only thing I regret is letting you behave like you had this much control. The silence that followed felt like the whole restaurant was holding its breath. Ronan finally gave a cold, dismissive laugh and walked away, leaving nothing behind but tension. When he was gone, Leia looked at me, really looked at me for the first time all night. Her eyes shimmered with guilt and exhaustion. I should have told you, she said. I let him cross boundaries because I didn't want anyone to be disappointed. I didn't cheat, Callum. I didn't betray you, but I let him take space that should have never been his, and I'm sorry. I leaned back, letting the truth settle inside me. I believed her, not because I needed to, but because her voice, her fear, her strength. They all aligned. She'd been drowning quietly for months, and tonight, she finally swam to the surface. You should have trusted me with all this, I said quietly. I'm your husband, I know, she whispered, and I want to rebuild that trust if you let me. I glanced at the doorway Ronan disappeared through, then back at the woman who chose herself and chose us tonight. The night was nothing like the anniversary I imagined, but for the first time in a long while, something honest broke open between us. I reached across the table and took her shaking hand. Let's begin again, I said. No secrets. No pressure. No one else between us. Her breath trembled as she nodded. Just us, she repeated. And there it was, the warmth I thought I'd lost, not from the room, not from the flickering candles, but from her. The woman who finally remembered she belonged to no one. Not a boss, not a job, but stood beside me as an equal, my partner. And I wasn't about to let a man like Ronan steal that from